Great, thank you.
I don't see that it's recording, but I'm going to assume that it is.
It is recording. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, good deal. All right, so hi again. This is Kevin. I'm with Benchmark ITS. I am the creator, an initial creator of the ADVANSYS Adult Education Management System that you're going to look at today. Today is an orientation. We're going to look at where to find certain things in the system, um, show you what different pieces of the system actually mean, how they work together, and what you can expect as you're working through the system yourself. The first thing I want you to look at is the staging site URL, which is nc-stg.advances.io/WIOA. I will copy that again and paste it into the chat for you, just in case you don't have it. If you are a first-time user or you've logged into the system before, your username should be your first name underscore last name underscore college code. I did notice that if you have multiple names, if you have a hyphenated last name or two last names, both of those names will be included in the username. So that is something to look for. And if you're a new user who has not logged into the system before, your initial password should be ChangeMe, CHANGEME, all lowercase. And once you log into the system with that password, you will be prompted at that point to reset your password. And then I'm going to talk about passwords again in just a minute. But let me get this pasted into the chat for you. So now the system URL is pasted into chat in case you need that. Okay, I'm going to actually switch over to the system now itself to give you an idea of what it looks like and where to go from there. So let me actually go here first. Go back and log out because I had the user had the user profile open. Now we can share the window. Okay, this is what the staging system or the demo system looks like. The one thing I do want you to note is at the top it says demo mode. This means that the data that you put into this area is not going to be live. It won't count for your reports. It is just an area for you to practice. This is your sandbox. This is your play area. This is where you can go to do trainings for your staff. If you have a new intake person who comes on and works with you, you can send them to this site and allow them to practice enter student data directly from an intake form. Um, if you want to see how an assessment or how an outcome or how any type of information you enter would affect a student record, you'll be able to enter it here to practice that. It's also where you'll go to see when we have new version releases, when we have new additions to the system, when we have changes that are based on federal policy that are placed into the system that will impact the way that you either view data or enter data. You'll find that all here prior to it being posted to the live site. So you have an opportunity to at least see it before it goes live and you have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. The login at the, the logo at the top will always take you back to the home page when you get into the system. But I'm going to log in now. If you look at the bottom, it says 5 incorrect login attempts will result in the account being locked. So if you get that error message that your password is incorrect and you try it a second time because you think you may have miskeyed it or mistyped it, and you still get that same error message, please use the forgot password link to reset, because once you try it 5 times and it does not work for the 5th time, your account will be locked and it will require either your program administrator or someone from the state team to unlock your account for you. That is, again, for security reasons. We want to make sure that the person who's logging into the system is the person that's supposed to be logging into the system. Also, in terms of passwords, the last thing I want to tell you in terms of that, your password is encrypted at the database level. So once you go into the system for the first time and change your password from ChangeMe to whatever you decide to make your password, we can't see it. Your state administrator can't see it. It's never posted to the site. And even in the database, when we look at if we look at the file for your record, in the database level, it's encrypted. So all we get is a long string of nonsensical numbers and letters that are not your password. Nobody can see your password. So if you do forget it, you can't ask anybody what it is. There's no way to retrieve it at that point. So, if the idea is we want to keep it as secure as possible. We don't want a situation where we know your passwords or your administrators know your passwords, so that we make sure that when you are logged in, it is actually you. Going to log into the system first as a state administrator to give you an idea of how this system actually functions on a global scale. ADVANSYS, our adult education management system that you're looking at now for the state of North Carolina, is an enterprise level system. What that means is when a program or a provider enters data, that data is instantly aggregated from the class level to the program level to the state level. So when you put data into the system and that data is approved, your state administrators can see that data just the same as you can. So when the state logs into the system, they can actually look and they can see how many students are in the entire state that are actively enrolled. And this data may not be accurate up to the date. This is data that we loaded over the last couple of days. So it may be a few days lag or even a month lag, but this is data that is in the system now that the state administrators can look at. They can go and they can pull a list of actively enrolled students. They can go and pull a list of non-NRS students. They can pull a list of students who have a social security number, who don't have a social security number. And they can see all of this data down to an individual provider. So if I wanted to go and look at, I'm going to pick on the sample program that I put into the system here. So I wanted to break this dashboard down. The state can actually break the dashboard down and they can look at a particular college's data instantly. It's a little bit of a different concept where it used to have to go, I don't know the exact path that it was formerly going through, but there was a data warehouse and then there was a this and a that and the other. And now when you enter data into this system, it is automatically and instantly aggregated to the state level so that they can see the data as on an instant basis. That's again, that's a little bit of a different concept. And we just want you to know that this is a global system so that when a student is put into the system, the student exists in the system and each different program and provider works with that student, not independently, but in conjunction with each other. Okay, a couple of things to notice across the top of the screen. Again, the logo at the top will always take you back to the dashboard page, which is the landing page, the first page that you encounter. Down the left-hand side are various navigational links. We break everything into the system down into components based on what the function is that you're trying to work with. So if it's student management and you open student management, there's a long list of different things that you can do that are related to managing students in the system. If you close that tab and open class management, there's a long list of functions that you have that are working with class management. Now, as each of you get into the system, you may see various different things that I can see that you don't see or that you see that others don't see. And that is based on the user permissions and the user roles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log out as a state administrator. I'm going to log back in as the administrator of my sample program. When I log back in as the administrator for my sample program, you see that the view changes. Now I only see, and you can't see the drop down, but you only see in that drop down, you should only see the programs for which you're assigned. So now my viewpoint has changed. If I go into the student management section, there are fewer options available to me as a program administrator than there were as a state administrator. There are fewer options under class management. Two or three other things again before I get too far into the actual function of the system. There, across the top, there are three boxes on the far right-hand side. The first one is it has a bell attached to it, and the bell you may or may not see the drop-down theme is very strange about that. But it's a list of alerts, and there's a testing alert, there's an attendance alert, there's a separation alert, there's a certificate alert, and there's an enrollment alert. And if you have items that are open under those different types of alerts, you will be notified with a number by that bell that will tell you you need to go and take a look at those. We also have next to that, we have a triangle with an exclamation point. This is a notification area. This tells you that there are notifications in the system. Typically, those are going to be that you have data in the system that needs to be approved. And approvals are, we will cover approvals in another session later today. But approvals are basically committing data to the system and locking that record for reporting purposes. And then on the far right-hand side, where your name is, you have your profile. You can click that to make changes to your profile. You can change your password in the system, and if you click that, this is what it looks like when you go in to initially change your password. You put in your current password, add a new password, and confirm it. And then also on that side, you have the logout button, and that logs you out of the system. We do have an automatic logout process. It is a 20-minute clock, and every time you click on an item in the menu or somewhere in the system, it resets the clock to 20 minutes. If you stop working with the system, it will log you out after 20 minutes. You'll get a warning at 5, but it will log you out after 20 minutes is up. And again, this is for security reasons. It logs you out of the system to make sure that it's not just sitting there open on your desk and someone can come along and change data. Once it logs you out, all you have to go do is go in and re-enter your password to log back into the system, and you'll be able to pick up where you left off. That pretty much covers the password information and those type things. I want to go now, actually, I want to show you under user management, because one of the first things that you'll probably be asked to do, in particular as a program administrator, is either make changes to the user profile or adjust the accessibility or the. So we're going to look at the user list for just a moment. So under user management, you click the little down arrow to open the tab, go to user list, and this will generate a list of all the users who are in your system. The default view for this list is only users who are active, who are not have not been deactivated in the system, or who are currently part of your program. If you wanted to see the users who were formerly in your program, you would click the Show Inactive button. And in this case, because it's a test program, there are not any. But if there were, they would show up here. You also have, in a lot of cases, we see that teacher will teach in multiple programs. So if you wanted to find a user program, you could search here to find a user in another program. So we have, this is, Melissa is our support specialist, and she is assigned to other programs as she's working through the system to help users. So I can look here and find a user who's in another program. If I wanted to make them part of my program, I could find them there. When you look at one of the things that this system does, to me, it's a good feature, and it does really well, is whenever you go to a page, it's not just a page to display information. It is a working page where you can get to other items in the system, where you can go to other places to see additional data, where you can download the data for your own purposes. So from this page, if you wanted to just take the list of users and export it to an Excel spreadsheet to make to make notes or make changes, you can do that from here. If you wanted to add a new user to the system, there's a link to add a new user to the system here. If you wanted to see the profile for this particular user, you can click here to go to that user's profile. If the user had credentials in the system, you could see their credentials. You can see their login name. So if a user calls you as the program administrator, one of your teachers, and says, I can't log into the system and I don't know why, you can't look at their password, but you can at least go and look at their login name and see if that's correct. And if they still can't get in, or if they're locked out, you can go to their profile and click here. And you can go down to the bottom of the profile and you can see if they're inactive. You can see if they're locked. You can change their password back to change me so they can get back into the system and then reset their password again. So at every part of the system, we try to have multiple options for you to get to information that you need. Under this same list of information, if you look at credentials, you have the ability to add credentials to the system. In this case, if you wanted to add certification, it shows the class information. These are the credentials that have been added to the user information. If you wanted to edit that, you could go here to edit. And then it shows whether or not they're locked out. So if a user calls you and says, they're a teacher, they can't get into the system, all you have to do is pull up the user list and look at their last name, and you can see whether or not they're actually locked out of the system. User's not locked out. And then the last thing on this list is the roles. So I want to go to the roles for just a minute. Now, as a program administrator, as a teacher, as a program level user, whether it's data entry or whatever it might be, you can view the roles that are assigned, but roles are created at the state level, and then each user in the system is assigned a role based on their function. So there are these, because this is a global system, the roles themselves are global. So if you are a program administrator, every program administrator who is assigned the program administrator role, you can click on that item and you can see the functions that are allowed and not allowed for each person who has that particular role. Can't make any changes to it. You can't, you can't add additional functionality to the role. You can only see what a program administrator is allowed to do. But that gives you some idea into how that role is applied to each user. And then let's say that we're going to delete that role, you can delete it. That's to delete. But I'm not going to delete now. I'm actually going to add another role. This is you can't see the drop down, but the list of roles that are in the system that are available for users is program administrator, teacher, assessment personnel, LEIS specialist, assessment personnel view only, which means they can see assessments but not enter assessments, enrollment personnel, attendance personnel, and program viewer, which means they can view all information about the program. They cannot enter any data at all. But those are the roles, and those roles were designed after feedback from the programs, after working in conjunction with your state administrators to determine which roles were most applicable to the greatest number of users. So when you're a program administrator, you'll have to make a decision based on what that role how that role functions in terms of which of those roles you'll assign to your users. If I wanted to look at that's the basic concept behind roles. I know that's a very brief explanation, but I did want to make sure that we covered the roles in this session because one of the things that I've noticed when we typically get my users log into the system, but they can't see anything, that's because that user is created in the system, but they do not have a role assigned. And until the role is assigned, they can see the pages, but they can't see any data on the pages. So you'll have to make sure that they do have a role and that the role is applicable to their function. Can you change the role? Absolutely. I'm going to go to, actually, let me go back to user management, user list. I'm going to go and change. Okay, I've got Tim added in. Tim is one of our developers, our lead developer, and he's actually put in as the program administrator for 3 programs as part of this test. If I wanted to change Tim's role, I can remove him just by clicking delete. I can delete all of those roles that are assigned to him. And then if I wanted to add a new role for Tim, if I wanted to say Tim is now going to be a teacher, so I select teacher. When I select teacher, it asks me to choose the program. You should only have one program in the dropdown for that. And then I have to choose the particular class to which he's assigned. So I'm going to assign him to test class 3. When I choose the class in that list and add that, now he's been added as a teacher for this particular class. I can click on the role that I've assigned to him, and I can see what information he's allowed to do. If it's checked, as a teacher, Tim can edit class hours. So he can add class hours. He can also view the hours for the class. As a teacher, he can remove students from the class. He can add students to the class. He can see how the class was set up, but he cannot create the class itself. He can view the test for the students. He can view reports related to his class. He can view certain alerts that are related to the class, basic information, and etc. He can add assessments to the student profile. So it gives him a lot of functionality there. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, that's really not what Tim needs to be doing. So I'm going to delete this role. And I'm going to add him another role. I'll add a role of, let's say I want to add a role of LEIS specialist. Now I choose the program because it's a program level role. And now I've changed his role to LEIS specialist. So the primary point that I want to make here is that it's very, very simple to add, change, delete roles so that you can change how a user interacts with the system so that it fits your particular model at your college as closely as we possibly can. Okay, I spent a lot of time
Kevin,
in
will you
users.
mention that that's only allowed for people who have access to that? Because some people do not have access to that and they're asking questions saying they don't see that.
I did not specifically mention that everybody would not be able to see that, but I did say at the beginning that depending on your role, you do not have the only people who have access to add roles and change roles in the system are those who are program administrators.
Okay.
Teachers cannot add roles. LEIS specialists, I don't think, can add roles. Roles are designed by the state and can be applied to users by their program administrators. So if you don't see the roles, you don't have access to that. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot more time in the roles. I wanted to touch on that first, though, because if you're the program administrator for your program, that's typically the first thing you're going to be asked is what do I need to do to make my users work in the system so that they can see what they're supposed to see and do what they're supposed to do. And roles is the primary component to making that happen. Getting them set up in the system as users and then making sure that the roles are assigned. And your state team and we will help you as you work through that process to make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. But the primary key there is also it's very flexible. If the wrong role is assigned, it's very easy to remove it and reassign another role.
There are several saying they're program admins and don't have access to user management. So I'm going to take that as a side item and to take a look at.
Well, again, it could be that they're program administrators as in their function, but they may not have a program administrator role. And I can't look it up because Ina's my program administrator.
Yeah, I'll take a look. I'm just letting you know there's several people who mentioned that. So everyone who has that, I'm taking a look at that as a side conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, so back to the system itself. The left-hand side is the navigation side. The top button is dashboard. Dashboard just takes you back to the home page and the dashboard that you've already looked at. Student management. And let's talk about the dashboard just for 1 second before I go to student management. As I mentioned before, we try to make everything as functional as possible. So when you see this dashboard and you see that there are 3 actively enrolled students, you hover over that and there will be a tooltip that will come up that will tell you what that actually means. It's the unique count of students that are actively enrolled, etc. The same thing that over here to the right-hand side, as you look at the dashboard graphic, it gives you some additional information there. So if I look at social security numbers, I don't have any for any of my students at this point. The biggest other part of this is if I wanted to see who these 3 active NRS registrations are, I click on the 3 button or the 3 link, and it puts the list down below. So it will generate a list of who those students are. And beyond that, I can take this particular list, and if I don't like the way that it's arranged, I can take the student name column, left click on it, hold it down, and I can drag it over to the far left-hand side. And now I've got the students on the far left-hand side. If I wanted to put the type of registrations that they had after the student name, I can move that over to the far left-hand side as well. If I want the program and provider name to be on the far right, I can take it to the far right. Now, this changes to the display are for the display that you're looking at only. They don't persist. It's just for you to arrange in the current view. In addition to that, there is a box that says available columns. If you click in available columns, you'll see a list of additional items that you can add to this view. If I wanted to see the date of birth, if I wanted to see their email address, if I also wanted to see their age, if I wanted to see their gender identity, I can add all of those different items to this drop down just by choosing them from available columns. And then again, I can move those around. So I can move that there. I can move email address here. And that changes the view of this particular list. So we give you the default. When you choose the number, it will give you a default. And then from that default, you can make additions and changes to the way it's arranged in order for you to view it. You can also take this information, this drop down. You can send it to an Excel file. You can send it to a PDF file to view. So again, multiple options there. You can change the number of entries if you want to see 100 at a time. It goes up from anywhere from 10 to 100. But that is the drill down portion of the dashboard, which gives you a much deeper view into. It takes you beyond the numbers, in other words, to give you an idea of not only there are 3 students who are NRS registered, but who are the 3 students, and can I have some additional information about those particular students? If you wanted to find just one particular instance, you can use a search, and it is an interactive search. So as soon as you begin to type information, it begins to make adjustments to the search. So if I just typed an H, it's going to limit it to everyone who has an H in their name, or there's an H anywhere in the information. And by the time I get down to Howard Hamlin. Again, on the left-hand side, there is the system is divided into multiple variations. There's student management, and there's a ton of things you can do in student management. You can go to look at browse students per class. If you click on that particular item, it gives you a list of classes in your program on the class itself, and it will take you to the number of students that are in the class. If you wanted to see students who are inactive, who had been in the class and are no longer in the class, you can click on the inactive students and you can change it there. Again, from this page, there's multiple options. You can click on the student name, to find information about the student. You can transfer the student to a different class. You can pull this list of of students out of the class and put it into an Excel sheet, a CSV, or a PDF. Under the student management, there's a number of reports that we're going to go over in various today. There's attendance review of students have not attended your class recently. There's a separation report that lists students who need to be separated and gives you options to remove them from the class. There are testing alerts that tell you students who have had a certain amount of attendance but have not had an assessment yet. Enrollment alerts for students who are not in a class but should be. There's just a vast number of different things you can find under student management, and the same goes for class management. There's a wide array of information that's available under class management. There's nothing you can break. So if you want to log into the system at any point in time, this system is not going to be closed after this demonstration. It's not going to be closed at the end of the day. You'll be able to log into this at any point in time, and you can go, if you're looking at this with me and you go, I wonder what the class location list, if you have that available, or I wonder what an attendance sheet looks like. You can go in whenever you feel like it, whenever you have the time, and you can pull up any of this information to look at it for yourself. Program management, about the only thing that most program administrators have under a program management is approvals, and there's a whole section on approvals later today. And also test review. And test review is a place where you can go and see information about the tests that are allowed in the system, that are approved by the NRS, that are available for you to use, and you can see the score ranges on those. Reports is where you go to find system reports, your federal reports, and we have a huge number of custom reports, legacy reports. There's a vast array of reports that you can go and look at in the system, and we have another section reporting tomorrow. And then the last place that I wanted to show you in particular is support. So if you go to support on the left-hand side is the yellow bar. You click that open and you go to downloads. Downloads gives you a list of items that can give you more information about the system. It's where we'll place release notes. It's where your state directors can put a new LEIS form if you wanted to have a new form. They can, if there's a communication from OCTAE that needs to be delivered, or a memorandum, you can find those type things here. We have filled this section with what I call basic how-tos. So how do I understand federal tables? We take the various components of the system and we break them down into smaller pieces, so you don't have to search the user manual to find what you're looking for. So how do I manage the dashboard? There is an entire document that shows just how to look at the dashboard. How do I upload student documentation? Something we'll talk about in another session later today. How do I generate reports? How do I enter a new user? How do I create a student? Create a class location. How do I copy, close a class? Change a contact type. So all this information is here and available for you. But what I want to look at today actually is day one in ADVANSYS, because this is the document that you'll probably use more often on the first couple of days, just to get a little bit of orientation. So I am going to show that there. That should be showing now. So what do I do today? It's a guide to the first day in the ADVANSYS data management system. So the first day, and I have a tendency to try fail the sense of humor. So the very first direction is to fasten your seatbelt, breathe normally. First, verify that your own information is correct before you attempt to verify the information of others, and exits are on the left and the right. A little bad airline humor, but it gives you information on how to log into the system, what to do if your password doesn't work, who to contact if things are not where you think they need to be. It tells you how to get to the support information and to find the documents. It tells you the primary things to look for in your profile. It tells you to check your role. All the things that we've gone over today, it tells you how to find that information, where to find that information, and what to do if it's not where you think it should be. It gets you into class rosters. It gets you into students. It tells you where to go to find approval, and if there are GED matches. But this is the day one document, and most of the documents that are in the system follow a similar pattern. It gives you step-by-step instructions on if you pulled the one on how to create a student. It gives you step-by-step instructions on how to create a student and on what each of the different data fields typically means. A lot of these have glossaries that have information about our terminology to make sure that you understand when we say what a measurable skills gain is, what that means. But those documents are all available in the download section. They are available now if you wanted to go and take a look at those. I do want to caution you, though, that these other than the day one advances in training, these release notes and these 3 how-tos in that first block, the first 7, these are broken links. We have taken these documents out of the system because we replaced them with other documents here in the other downloads. But all the other downloads from the top down, all of those actually do generate the file that you're looking for. Again, to go back to the dashboard, you just click on the dashboard link, or you can click on the logo at the top. It takes you back to the same place, back to the dashboard.
Kevin, will you show one more time how you got to those documents? Someone's asking where to find the support documents again, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
You go to support, which is on the left-hand side, the yellow tab. Open that up and click downloads. All right, that's basically a general overview of the system. I spent a lot of time on the roles because logging in and making sure that you're able to do what you're supposed to be able to do in the system is one of the primary things that you need to go over on the first day, and especially in an orientation. If there's anything else I need to show you, I still have 7 minutes, or if there's any other questions related to the demo system itself, or anything that we need to talk about, I'll be glad to take those at this time. Okay, I do see a question about approvals. So I want to go to approvals really quickly. If you open program management and you go to approvals pending, now not everybody will have access to approvals. This is only for state level administrators. You don't have to approve data in the demo system unless you want it to show up on the reports that you're running in the demo system. But you can use this as an area to practice how approvals function. So in my case, I have 4 class hours that are pending approval. You'll have a number in each one of these blocks that will tell you what needs to be approved. And if you click on that, it will show you, it shows you the class and it shows you the students, it shows you information on what needs to be entered or needs to be approved. I'm sorry, but you're not required in the demo site to approve data. You will be required to approve it on the live site. So it doesn't hurt anything to go and approve the data on the demo site just to practice. And if you don't hear anything else that I say, the one thing I do want you to take away from this is that this system is yours to use and to practice with and to play with and to get comfortable with the system, get oriented with the system. We're not going to. This is not a one-day thing. This site will be available to you always. So at any point in you know, day, night, weekends, whenever you have free time and you want to go look at something or you want to see how something would work, get it performed a certain feature, or if you're not sure how you should enter something, you can go here to the system and you can always practice. So that if you don't, like I said, if you don't take anything else away from this, I do want you to know that this is always here for you to use and to give to your new users to let them get oriented in the system as well. I don't see anything. Jenny, I'm scrolling back through the chat. I don't see anything other than getting into the system.
Yeah, there's a few questions about students and approvals, but we really need to wait and cover those during those classes. I am going to copy the email address into the link. If I did not get to your profile, I apologize. I was going through those as quickly as we can during during the training. Several of you, just make sure you're entering change me as the default for the first time. But if you're still having trouble logging in, I'm going to give you an email address to send that to, so that you can get into the system. Some of you did not have roles and permissions, and without that being set, we can't set that up for you. So that would need to go to your program administrator. You know, but if you want to send an email to this address, that'll get you started to make sure we get you into the system. So I'm going to copy that into the chat right now for everyone. Think I took care of most of you. Again, I apologize. I was trying to go to the top of the list and work my way down. So if I missed one, just because the chat, you know, was rather full of information or requests, I apologize if I missed you.